In 1972, off Point Sur, California, an orca closed its jaws around the leg of a surfer named Hans Kretschmer. It took roughly 100 stitches to close the wound. Then the whale let go and swam away. More than 50 years later, that is still the worst injury an orca has ever inflicted on a human being in the open ocean. Not the worst of that decade, the worst on record. The single most violent thing the ocean's most complete predator has ever done to a person in the wild. And the person walked away from it. Since then, we have put divers in the water with them. Fishermen, kayakers, swimmers, researchers who spend their careers within arm's reach of a 6-ton carnivore. Shipwreck survivors floating for hours in water an orcapod was already hunting in. Millions of encounters. 0 fatalities. Not one. The explanation you've probably heard is that this is a mistake they never make. That we're too bony, not enough fat on us to be worth the calories. That we simply don't read as food, a shape their brains file under debris. It's a comforting answer. It's also wrong. The evidence points somewhere far stranger. They know exactly what we are, and that is precisely why we are still here. To understand how unusual restraint is, you have to understand what's being restrained, because the case against orcas is not close. Off the coast of South Africa, 2 male orcas, known to researchers as Port and Starboard, named for their collapsed dorsal fins, developed a technique for hunting great white sharks. They don't maul them, they flip them upside down, which locks a shark into paralysis, and then they make a single incision behind the pectoral fin and remove the liver. The liver. Nothing else. The carcasses wash ashore intact, except for one clean, deliberate absence. Great whites, the animal an entire genre of nightmare was built around, responded by abandoning stretches of coastline they had used for generations. They didn't fight back. They left. In Antarctica, orcapods hunt seals resting on ice floes by swimming in formation and generating a wave. Not a random splash. A wave, sized and aimed, that washes the seal into open water. If the first attempt fails, they regroup and adjust the angle. They hunt blue whales, the largest animal that has ever existed on this planet, larger than any dinosaur. And orcas hunt it successfully. There is no animal in the ocean that outranks them. There is no defense that reliably works. They are the only predator on Earth whose menu includes every other apex predator on Earth. So the question was never whether they could. In May of 2020, something started happening in the Strait of Gibraltar. Orcas began ramming boats. Not randomly. Specifically. They target the rudder. They approach from behind, apply pressure until the steering mechanism fails, and in some cases, keep going until the hull is compromised. By 2026, there have been more than 500 recorded interactions, over 250 vessels damaged, 4 sunk. The population responsible numbers around 30 animals. Roughly 15 individuals do most of the work. Now here is the part that should stop you. Sinking a boat puts people in the water. Crews have gone into life rafts. Sailors have ended up floating in open ocean surrounded by animals that had just spent 40 minutes deliberately destroying a 40-foot yacht in a state researchers describe as agitated. Not one person has been harmed. Not bitten, not struck, not dragged. 0. If an apex predator dismantles your vessel, watches you fall into its element, and then does nothing, that is not a failure of recognition. That's a line it won't cross. Here's where the real answer starts. Orcas are technically one species. In practice, they are something closer to a collection of nations. Biologists have identified at least 10 distinct ecotypes. In the waters off British Columbia, two of them overlap almost completely. The residents, who eat fish, and the Biggs orcas, who eat marine mammals. They swim through the same channels. They pass each other regularly. They do not interbreed. They do not share a vocal dialect. They are diverging genetically, and neither one will eat the other's food. That last part sounds like preference. It isn't. The southern resident population is collapsing. Fewer than 80 animals remain, and the reason is starvation. The Chinook salmon they depend on has crashed. These orcas regularly chase, catch, and kill harbor porpoises. They carry them around. They play with them for hours, and then they let them sink. Hundreds of pounds of available meat alongside animals that are dying of hunger, and they will not eat it. Deborah Giles, who has studied these whales since 2005, puts it simply. They eat what their mothers teach them to eat. For an orca, food is not a calorie count. It's an identity. It's the thing your family does, transmitted through generations, enforced without exception. Humans have never been on that list. And in a culture that would rather die than eat off menu, never being on the list is the safest place in the ocean. The second half of the answer is anatomical. An orca has the second largest brain of any animal on Earth, not proportionally, in absolute mass, around 6 kilograms. It also has a structure ours does not, an elaborated paralimbic lobe, a region wrapped around the emotional and social processing centers, developed to a degree that has no equivalent in the primate brain. Neuroscientist Lori Marino, who has spent her career imaging cetacean brains, argues this rules out the misidentification theory entirely. And their sonar closes the door on it. Orca echolocation doesn't return a silhouette. It returns internal structure, bone density, air pockets, lung volume. An orca does not look at a swimmer and see an unusual seal. It sees your skeleton. It reads your lungs. It knows precisely what you are, and it knows precisely how many of you there are. Orcas have killed 4 people. Every single one of those deaths happened in a concrete tank. 3 of them involved one animal, a male named Tilikum, captured off Iceland as a calf and held for the rest of his life in enclosures a fraction of the range he would cover in a single day at sea. The 4th was a trainer named Alexis Martinez, killed in 2009 by a whale named Keto at a marine park in Tenerife. So the arithmetic of this species is, the entire ocean, across all of recorded history, 0. 4 swimming pools, 4 bodies. Which tells you the restraint was never a limitation. It's not that they can't, it's that they don't. And that distinction only holds while the animal is still intact. Hans Kretschmer's leg took 100 stitches. It also took a decision, because at any point in those few seconds, the outcome could have been different. And it wasn't. The reason we've never been hunted is not that we're inedible, and it's not that we're unrecognizable. It's that we are recognized, completely, by an animal with the intelligence to make a rule, the culture to pass that rule down, and the discipline to hold it even while starving. We aren't spared because we're beneath their notice. We're spared because they noticed and decided. The most dangerous predator in the ocean has been sharing the water with us for as long as we've been getting into it, and every single day it chooses not to. The only place that choice has ever broken is the one place we took it away from them. If you want to see what happens when that decision goes the other way, watch what an orcapod does to a blue whale. Links on screen. And I want to hear this one in the comments. Is the restraint a rule they inherited, or a judgment they're making about us in real time? Because those are 2 completely different animals.